Time for a Sky Bet League One penultimate weekend roundup. Helmet off, raise your bat, Lincoln ton up. Louis Barry is Arjen Robben in a mirror, putting posh defenders in a blender. A welcome back hat-trick. Bim Pepples skims Argyle closer to the playoffs, and at Luton it was another case of Casey Palmer goal charmer. Stevenage in harm's way. Can a draw at Doncaster be classed a disaster? We'll find out on final day. We also saw Jasper Moon landing a big goal for Burton, Wimbledon win and safe, Exeter close to the exit in the last chance saloon. And once more I ask, are we Orient about Orient? Welcome to our League One recap. He's George. I'm Ali.
Hello, mate.
We're going to start in the playoff race, George, because in League One, our top two already secured. Lincoln, Cardiff, see you in the Championship next season. 3 of the 4 relegation spots have been taken already in the form of Northampton, Port Vale and Rotherham. So this playoff race and that last relegation spot...
Spicy.
That's where we're looking. Stevenage started the weekend on 71 with Luton and Plymouth on 68 and 67. So a Stevenage win would have knocked Argyle out the picture, and certainly from their point of view, and it would have given them a lovely 3-point cushion heading into final day. But George, Stevenage didn't win.
No.
What was the score and where?
It was 1-1 at Doncaster, who were trying to, avoid disaster. They already have, actually, in fairness to them, so that's good. I can't get away from the fact that if Stevenage don't finish in the top 6, and they currently are in the top 6 going into final day, but they're 1 point clear of Luton, 2 points clear of Argyle, and they have a worse goal difference than both. And they host Wigan Athletic on Saturday. So the chances are that I'm going to say they're probably going to have to win that in order to get in the playoffs. It feels, depending on what happens with Bradford as well, but it feels very harsh. Like, I just think what they've done this season and how Alex Ravel's got them playing, I'm kind of surprised, because when the goings got tough at the back end, they've generally been pretty good. But because Luton and Argyle have been so relentless, they haven't been able to get it done before final day, and they had an opportunity to do so here. They were ahead early on. Wonderful strike from Matty Phillips from the edge of the area to make it 1-0. And they had a few chances in that first half to double their lead, but couldn't take them. And the game kind of opened up in the second half. Billy Sharp kind of steering home from close range, a couple of appeals for handball, but I couldn't really see from the angle that we got. And then Donny had some big chances to win the game, especially right at the death with a senior kind of stooping header saved by Marshall, who made a couple of big saves in the game. And that would have been a total disaster for Stevenage had they lost this game, because they would have fallen out of the top 6. So it's not a great result, especially given Doncaster with very little to play for. It's also no disaster themselves. Charlie Good had a chance to win it for Stevenage that was also saved. So they host Wigan. Obviously, Wigan, another one of these teams with not much to play for, who haven't.
It's looked like it in the last couple.
Haven't
of games.
scored in their last 2 games, as we'll get to shortly. So that could be a big positive for them. It's also, I guess, handy that there is a team above them in Bradford who are still there to be taken. But it doesn't really help Stevenage that much, because Stevenage have to beat Bradford to get above them, and if Stevenage win, then they're there anyway. So, it's nervy, but it's still very much in Stevenage's hands, and they'll be a pretty short price to win that game on Saturday.
It's nervy, as you say, not because of their own fault, really. 15 points from their last 8 games. They've only lost, one of their last 8, but it's because of the form of Luton Town and Plymouth Argyle that this is getting to the final day. Luton win again. That's 7 wins in their last 9 with 2 draws in that time. A 2-1 win at home to Barnsley. McKee Wells putting them ahead from the spot, and then they had to suffer a little. Barnsley equalising, nice move as well. Kelly, every time I see Patrick Kelly, he looks even better than the last time I saw Patrick Kelly, and he's a really exciting young player for Barnsley. He drove the ball forward, found its way to Reyes Cleary, another excellent young player that they have. Right foot shot from the left was parried, and Adam Phillips headed in for 1-1. Phillips had a big chance running in behind in the second half as well. He felt he was fouled for a penalty, but I think it was just a coming together, if you like, after he went round the keeper. And then Casey Palmer won the game for Luton. And Palmer is one of the he's been one of the league's best players the last few months. Got to be one of the January signings of the season in the whole EFL. We've known him in the Championship for like a decade, being a highly technical attacking midfielder who at his best looks glorious, quite frankly, but who has bounced from team to team to team and never really found his way as like a star at that level. And now dropping down to Luton, well, he has scored in 7 of his last 9 league games, which for a number 10 is absurd. 8 goals in total in that time. Scored the winner here. Just looks so confident in front of goal and won it for Luton. So they go into final day still alive, as do Plymouth Argyle, George. They did the business at home to Port Vale. Neither of these two teams won maybe as comfortably as I thought they might.
Mitigating circumstances with Plymouth Argyle, who did take the lead after 3 minutes through Ben Peppel, and then we're down to 10 men after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, Peppel put through by Tolai early on, finished really nicely to make it 1-0. Tolai and Peppel enjoying just a great partnership when they're both fit. But it's becoming increasingly hard to see Tolai being an Argyle player next season if they're in League One, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of Championship clubs that are after him. I think Connor Hazard just had a bit of a moment.
Hazard perception was not good.
Yeah, the ball kind of fired up to him and he came out to come and claim it and realised that he was either going to have to come out of his box to claim it or he was going to have to leave it. And rather than probably doing what he should have done, which was just let the ball evade him and, they're probably going to score, but they might also not score. Like, we'll have to see what happens. He decided to literally take the matters into his own hands by kind of palming the ball away clearly outside the box and then being sent off.
I don't actually think the striker would have run onto it and scored. No, I think the defender would have got there, but you're not to know in a split second.
In that situation, you just have to let nature run its course, I think, rather than intervening. But he intervened, so that meant that they were down to 10 men. It also meant that we saw Ashby Hammond come on for, I think it was Caleb Watts. Yeah, Caleb Watts, who came off after 8 minutes. And then shortly after that, Connor Hall scored to make it 1-1. And from there, you're looking at what's probably the end of Argyle's season after such a joyous opening goal. And, when you've got 11v10 for such a long period of time, you know the way that the game is going to look, even if it is Port Vale coming to town. And even though Argyle still continued to be a bit of a threat on the break, Port Vale dominated the ball and had a few opportunities to go 2-1 up. But when the third goal in the game came, it came from Peppel, and it was a brilliant finish from the edge of the area just after half time to put Argyle 2-1 up. The stats from the second half are absolutely superb.
Go on.
83% possession for Port Vale.
Wow.
Passing stats, 298 for Port Vale, 60 for Argyle in the whole of the second half. Just complete territorial dominance. But for their 60 passes total, for their 33 accurate passes in the second half, Argyle had 8 shots. Has a team ever had that many shots compared to successful passes? 33 successful passes, 8 shots. That is incredibly efficient shot taking, and impressively, they weren't even all from distance too. But they defended their box really well for all of their possession. Port Vale had just the 6 shots, 1 on target, 0.22 xG. So it wasn't even as nervy as you'd expect it to be given the situations. So Argyle's still in with a shout. I mean, it's going to be tricky for them, of course. They're going to need Luton and Stevenage to slip up, but they go away from home to the team that are likely going to finish bottom of the league in Northampton Town. You would probably expect them to win that game. Luton have a really difficult trip to Bolton. And if Stevenage only draw with Wigan, that will put them on 73 points, and then an Argyle win would take them above them on goal difference. So it's not that difficult to see it happening at this stage.
Yeah, Ben Peppel leads all players in England's top 4 tiers for goals scored in 2026. And the assist from Tolai for his second goal as well was glorious. I mean, we're big Laurent Tolai fans. I think everyone knows that, but he's just whatever you want him to be. He'll be your leading man if you want him to be, but if your leading man is Ben Peppel, he'll basically be the foil. He'll be the number 10 if you want him to be. Quite remarkable player. We had Bradford and Bolton playing against each other, and if I'm honest, based on the atmosphere in this game and the way the game played out, this would be a very fun playoff game, either over 2 legs or at Wembley. Pretty lively affair. Kozia Dewberry hit the bar in the first half. Metcalf at the other end had one off the line for Bradford, and the 2 goals were beautiful as well. Great strikes. The first one from Kenny, who just gets better each month for Bolton, having joined on loan in January. Just a glorious striker's finished, having been played in by Burstow, just picking out the top corner from the edge of the box. And then a sumptuous volley from Caden Jackson, who, showed great technique to smash home the equaliser. A very important point for Bradford. Had they lost that game, they would be... They are still vulnerable in it's still pretty cut and dried for them. It's in their hands, and they just have to go to Exeter, do their job and win, and everything will be fine. But that was still, I think, quite a big goal, probably in the circumstances for them. So Bolton have booked their playoff spot, but they could still finish 3rd, 4th, 5th or 6th. Bradford, well, they could finish 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th or 7th. They go away to Exeter, who obviously need a win. We'll get onto them in just a second. Argyle can't catch Bradford, but Luton can move to 74 with a win. And of course, Stevenage would also have to win in that scenario to see Bradford finish 7th. Stockport, they are very likely to be in the playoffs. They could book their spot on Tuesday night, where they've got a game in hand at home to Port Vale. 1 point would see them confirmed into the playoffs. And if they win, that would mean Stockport going 3rd heading into final day. George, they beat Peterborough by 3-1, a familiar name that we haven't seen much this season, at the treble.
Barry. Yes, Louis Barry, who, eyebrows were raised when he went back to Stockport in January, given there was seemingly no guarantee at that point that he would necessarily be fit at any point this season. Yeah. It felt like just a decision from Stockport to say, let's put ourselves right at the front of that queue for the summer.
6th of April was his first game, having joined in January, and he got sent off.
And now they're getting hat-tricks. Yeah. So, it's all right. This could have been an awkward one for Stockport, because had they lost this game, then they'd have been part of this conversation with permutations. And it's very unlikely that it's going to be. But even if they lose to Port Vale on Tuesday night, which is unlikely to happen, but certainly could happen, then they are going to be part of that conversation as to who Luton and Stevenage can kind of think of in this playoff battle, with a trip to Barnsley on final day. But they're pretty good here, and they had to. Having squandered a lead against Exeter a couple of times, having been beaten at home by Mansfield with nothing to play for, and then having gone 1-0 down to a Harry Leonard goal after 13 minutes here, there'd have been a moment, I can guarantee, on the bench or amongst the home fans, thinking, what is going on here? Are we actually going to blow this? So it was fitting that a guy who was such a huge part of their promotion campaign, who Stockport County fans know is so good, that he was the person who scored the 3 goals. And a couple of them, the last one in particular, just classic Louis Barry, just racing down that left hand side, cutting onto his right foot and firing it past the keeper.
What I liked is that the second one, the defender was so keen not to let him cut onto his right foot that he completely he stood too far on Barry's right foot, to the point where Barry didn't cut inside, but still managed to shoot with his right foot into the far corner. Yeah. How have you let that happen? Because it must be a bit of it must spin you a little bit, being the opposite man.
What I really like is if you look at the FOTMOB shot map, there's only 2 goals, because the second 2 are just from exactly the same place.
On top of each other. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, the stats, which I've nicked from NTT20.com's weekend notes, I've never really seen anything quite like this. He had 10 shots against Posh, 9 of them inside the box. He created 4 chances. He made 10 tackles, interceptions or ball recoveries as well, 2 of which resulted in goal-scoring opportunities for Stockport when he nicked it off the Posh defender, David Okabu. So, a scintillating performance.
Yeah, really good. And also, it's just funny, how he's had okay spells out of the clubs. Obviously, didn't work out at Sheffield United at all. But at Stockport, he just always looks like he's a top-end Championship player playing in League 2 or League 1, and it was the same again here. So, I'm sure he'll have a big part to play in the playoffs as and when Stockport County confirm their position there. Yeah, and last time Stockport County lost in a playoff campaign, and the next season they went up automatically, but they'll be hoping this time they can do it through the playoffs again.
Yeah, so Bolton 75, Stockport and Bradford 74, Stevenage 72, that is 3rd to 6th, and then Luton 71 and Argyle 70. I'm not going to go through all the permutations, but suffice to say it's going to be a pretty exciting final day. Right, let's look down the bottom now, where it's all eyes on Exeter City, really, George, at the moment, because they're the ones that have been desperately trying to chase teams down. They went into the weekend having won against Donny, drawn at Argyle, drawn at home to Stockport. What would they do at Burton?
Draw.
1-1 draw.
Yeah.
It means Burton survive. It means Exeter still alive, but probably wish they'd won.
Yeah, this was a really, really important game for both teams because, a Burton win would have, or could have relegated Exeter City. An Exeter win would have thrown the cat amongst the pigeons and would have kept Burton Albion in this mess. And a draw gets Burton safe and gives Exeter a glimmer of hope, albeit a goal in Wigan that we'll come to in a second was a hammer blow to their survival hopes. Niskanen put Exeter 1-0 up, capitalising on a mistake from Burton at the back before Jasper Moon, after a spell of Burton pressure, finally was able to head home and get the equaliser. Burton had a couple of opportunities. They'd gone close a few times at 1-0. And some really good saves from Bycroft, the goal-scoring hero against Stockport, made a couple of big saves to keep them in it. So, yeah, it's hard to say. Exeter, having put in a couple of really good performances against Argyle and Stockport, I think probably game state plays a part. Like they went ahead early here away from home and they were kind of backs to the wall a bit, but they certainly weren't as impressive from a attacking standpoint as I have done previously. And they've just got an incredibly tough game now hosting Bradford because Bradford need the point or the points. And if Bradford get anything out of the Exeter game, then they will secure their spot in the playoffs, but they will also relegate Exeter City in the meantime. And I think from Exeter's perspective, it's probably quite annoying that Bradford haven't quite done that yet because it would be a very, very different game had they if they knew that they were playing against a team that didn't need it and could rest players for the playoffs. So it's hard to be overly confident about Exeter's survival aims. They are unbeaten in 4. It does feel like Matt Taylor is getting a much better performance level out of them than what was going on previously. But they need to do their bit, and they've got to pray that Orient don't do theirs, who host Burton, who now have nothing to play for on final day.
Congrats to Burton securing their survival. It's obviously been a real battle for them over the last couple of seasons. In League One, they finished 20th in the last 2 completed seasons as well. They're 17th as we sit here now, unbeaten in their last 5 with 4 draws. So they've really grinded it out. And Gary Bowyer, I think, does get a lot of credit and should get a lot of credit. Been a strange couple of years for Burton when you consider that Ben Robinson's chairmanship and ownership kind of ending at the start of last season was obviously going to be an uncertain time for the club. It felt in some ways like an exciting time for the club. They signed 1 million players at the start of last season, and then they got very close to relegation, and then it was announced that they lost loads and loads of money and that those that had bought the club were going to struggle to sustain that. So that was slightly concerning. But with Bowyer being such a steady hand in the dugout, they're just quite an interesting squad now, Burton, where got quite a lot of players that I like. I actually think for their budget, for their place in the food chain, some of their recruitment has been pretty good. Some of it has obviously not been particularly good, but within that, you look at a team now that has Tyrese Shade and Jake Beasley up front, both a massive handful, and Tyrese Shade, from what I've heard, very, very likely to attract the same sort of interest as Roman Burrell did last season, even though he's only scored 9 goals and Burrell scored more. A lot of championship clubs are watching Shade and they like what they see. At the back, even, guys like Lofthouse, only 25, Udoka Godwin Malif somehow still only 25. Obviously Charlie Webster in midfield, who missed a chunk of the season, but who's only 22 and looks really excellent. So yeah, congrats to Burton. I think they're quite an intriguing club heading into the summer. I haven't looked at the contract situations of a lot of those players, but if they were to have a good summer of recruitment and Gary Bowyer can go again, I think there's lots to be positive about. Wimbledon fans, whew.
Wow.
That got a bit close, didn't it? Wigan 0, Wimbledon 1. An injury time winner scored by Antoine Hackford, who has really struggled for an impact this season. But boy, did they need him, because Matty Stevens, Omar Bugle, Marcus Brown, their 3 attackers, all out injured, and they were sinking without a trace, weren't they? Winless in 9, I think it was, before this. But having stayed alive in this game, Wigan had most of the shots in the game, but none on target, none, Wimbledon defended for their lives, put it that way, and had a few chances of their own on the break. And just Hackford, a little bit of pace to get in front of Morgan Fox and finish off an assist from Nelson. That's the latest winning goal that Wimbledon have scored in a league game since Ronan Curtis scored in March 2024 against Milton Keynes to beat them. It means that Wimbledon survive. Wimbledon will be in League One next season. And yeah, strange season for them, kind of 2 really strong spells, which have been the kind of bedrock of their points return, and 2 quite long spells where they've found wins and points really, really hard to come by. But overall, 53 points from 45 games is a points return to be pretty pleased with. And like pretty much every team that stays up just in League One, there's a huge challenge to make sure that you get better again next season rather than get sucked in and suffer a kind of gravitational relegation, as I always call it. But that's the job that they have on their hands. And Blackpool, George, they beat Leyton Orient 1-0. Now, a few weeks ago, Orient would have felt much safer than Blackpool.
Yeah.
Blackpool have jumped from 20th to 13th in the space of a fortnight.
Unbelievable.
And given how their goal came about here, I think it's fair to say that certainly in this instance, they got some of the rub of the green.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Dale Taylor penalty that rockets back off the woodwork and hits Dennis in the Orient goal and goes in the back of the net. Orient's great fun with goalkeepers just continues.
Crazy.
But Orient were pretty poor. They didn't create much of any great value. Ballard had a one-on-one that he missed, but then he was flagged offside anyway, so it wouldn't have counted, but it was an uncharacteristic miss from him. This was just basically a domination from the home team, really, a Blackpool side who struggled to find their feet for a while under Ian Evatt, but huge credit to Evatt for turning it around. As we said a lot on this show, I think he was probably 20 minutes or so from being sacked when they were 2-1 down against Port Vale a few weeks ago. And since coming back from there, he's really kind of built something, and there's a huge unity at the club moving forward. Can't say the same about Orient. They've got a player in Ballard who won the Sky Bet League One Young Player and Player of the Year award. Yet they find themselves 2 points outside the bottom four with one game to go. That game, it's a home game against Burton Albion. It's a game that they should expect to get something from. If Exeter beat Bradford, they have to win it because their goal difference is worse than Exeter's. A draw wouldn't be enough if Exeter were to win, and the way they're playing at the moment and the way they're struggling to get over the line, I can't imagine they're feeling overly secure about having to do that. It's mad that they won 4 games in a row in March.
Yeah,
it feels like a long time ago. Wellens is someone who'll obviously believe in his own abilities to ensure that he can mastermind a good performance against Burton, but they're just playing really badly again. And just to think that they had a home game against Rotherham, back on, not the Saturday just gone, but the Saturday before that, and anything there would have put them in a stronger position. They lost 2-0 to a side already relegated. Like, it's been a desperate campaign for them.
Yep. So on Saturday, Exeter at home to Bradford. The only thing that puts a cat amongst some pigeons is an Exeter win there, and that would have an impact on both the relegation battle and the playoff picture, of course. Peterborough mathematically still could go down. They've got a game in hand in midweek at home to Mansfield. A point would put them safe. In order for them to go down, they would have to lose at home to Mansfield and at home to Doncaster, and Exeter beat Bradford. And with those 3 results, a 7-goal swing would have to happen, which is not out of the realms of possibility, but obviously highly improbable. So all on Exeter and St James Park next Saturday, 3 p.m. At the top, Lincoln beat Wycombe by 4-3 in a pretty crazy game to make it to 100 points. Just an incredible achievement for Skrubala and Lincoln and this team. And they played the hits, really. We saw a Jack Moylan individual goal, one of the goals of the weekend. We saw Rico Hackett, maybe in the shadow of Moylan a little bit, but still a really underrated and highly important part of this Lincoln team, doing broadly what Moylan does, but on the other side, he scored the second and the third, 11 goals and 7 assists in 33 games for him. Wycombe came back into it, Scowen with a goal and an assist, one of his, I think it's his first start actually since tearing his ACL 12 months ago, which is great news for Wycombe. Skura made it 3-2, but when I say they played the hits, George Wickens, the goalkeeper, pinging one over the top of the Wycombe back line for the right back Tendai Darikwa to run onto and finish off 1-1. Not the first time that has happened this season. Wickens has 4 assists from goal, which is astounding. Never seen anything like that.
He's got 4 assists.
Mm-hmm. 4 assists.
Same as Stan Mills.
There you go. And Woodrow scored to make it 4-3, but Lincoln held on. So for Wycombe and a lot of the other teams, Lincoln are obviously the blueprint. Mike Duff said as much afterwards, had some pretty harsh words, said he had told his Wycombe players that they'd wasted 10.5 months of their lives, which is a pretty punchy thing. Sometimes I think that about us. Nah, I'm kidding. This is fun.
Did he actually say that?
He did say that, yeah. he wants them to live the life of a professional footballer more rather than just, he wants them to actually live it in terms of their actions rather than just sort of, go through the motions and think it's cool being a professional.
Okay.
The Riot Act. Cardiff 5, Northampton 1. Good times in Cardiff as well.
Yeah, battered them. Tanner with a couple. Joel Colwell with one. Callum Robinson another. Yusuf Salek scoring late on after Jake Evans had scored a lovely goal from the edge of the area to give Northampton's travelling fans something to cheer about. But yeah, a 5-1 win. Just total domination from a Cardiff City side who were able to play with freedom off the back of their promotion. They aren't going to have any games as easy as this one next season. Northampton going down, likely to finish bottom. They've got a Tuesday night game against Barnsley to come. I guess they'll be hoping that they can find a way to claw back the 4-point deficit to Port Vale with 2 games to go, but it's pretty unlikely and hard to feel much confidence about them going forward. Just be interesting to see who comes in as their new manager, because Colin Caldwell has yet to pick up a point in his caretaker spell. Yeah,
and elsewhere, some vintage beachy randomness in Huddersfield 1, Mansfield 4. Mansfield scoring 4 goals from 3 shots on target. Akins scored their first. He made his debut for Huddersfield 19 years ago today. His first goal in English football was scored for Northwich Victoria in the conference 07-08. Were Oxford in the conference 07-08?
Yes.
I think I might have gone to watch Oxford play Northwich Victoria, possibly that season at the Cast.
Yeah, that was the last game of the season. Needed to win and results go away to get in the playoffs. Ryan Clark starting goal for Northwich. Oxford players pitch invaded. It was all a bit of a nightmare. And Northwich won.
Wow. Would Yemi Odebedi have been playing? Possibly.
Yeah, I'd have thought so.
We had an own goal for 2-0, a Regan Hendry screamer for 3-0, Marcus Harness scoring for Huddersfield. Quite strong end to the season, I think, from Harness in terms of performances. 7 goals and 6 assists in total for him this season. And then the Spurs youngster Iro squeezing one in on the break. So, good finish to the season for Mansfield. Kevin Nagel, the Huddersfield owner, tweeted some thoughts, as he does like to do. Slightly less so now than he did when he first came in a few years ago. In fact, this might be the last time we ever hear from Kevin on Twitter, because he said, no more flashy promises. And after this statement, no more flashy words. But he did use his last flashy statement to say, we will be smart and we will be tactical. So that sounds positive, because the last 3 years have been pretty poor. Rotherham 1, Reading 1 was the last game to talk about Sam Nombe scoring for Rotherham, whose future will be interesting this summer. Still a year left on Nombe's contract. Obviously, Rotherham going down to League 2. I don't think Nombe has anything. He shouldn't be playing in League 2. He scored 12, 14 and 15 in his last 3 seasons at this level. And since first half of the season, kind of beset by injuries, but he's played full 90s pretty much all the last 3 months. So he's proving to any potential suitors physical capability still there. Daniel Shariwa equalised for Reading. So all eyes on the playoff places and that last relegation spot on final day on Saturday. We'll be recording our recap on Saturday night. So you'll certainly have a League One final day recap by Sunday, if not on Saturday night. And then we'll be previewing the playoffs a couple of days after that. So cheers for listening and go well.